You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. All right, welcome aboard our good friend, Sean Kelley, in his first year as the voice of the Gators, replacing legendary Mick Hubert, who retired after last season. Of course, Sean was radio voice of the Pels for a long time, recently with ESPN. Of course, now the radio voice of the Florida Gators. Sean, it's a pleasure, man. Great to talk. How are you?
Man, long time no talk to you. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
How's it going, man?
I'm learning and adjusting to new colors. But so far, so good. No, it's been fun. The people have been great. I can get around town now without the use of my phone. That's a victory in itself. And the Eastern time zone, by the way, sucks. Can I just say that?
We're so spoiled, man. We're so spoiled in the Central time zone. Hey, man, let's talk a little bit about the game. You've every call I've heard, you've done great, man. So it's great to hear your voice. Halfway through the first season under Billy Napier, what's the mood around the program?
Cautious optimism, I think. The record's fine, 4-2. Your two losses are very respectable. One's to Tennessee and one's to Kentucky. And, look, the wins haven't been very pretty, but we've learned that Billy Napier's team is going to be in it basically every game. It'll be interesting 2 weeks from now against Georgia, but this is a team that, I think is entertaining enough that they have the ability to play with anyone in the country, and they can win or they can lose. And it hinges seemingly on one possession, maybe even a couple of plays. So it's clear as to what Napier needs on this roster moving forward. And I think that it's also clear that there's some talent here that's developed under him, and that also that he has benefited from the transfer portal in a couple of key spots.
Among them certainly would be on the offensive line. So running game figures to be a big part of this, and namely Anthony Richardson, who I want to talk about. Sean, so many people saw him and how dynamic he was in that upset over Utah. And then there's been times where it's just looked a little off. Any ideas to why that they've struggled to find that consistency with him, if you even think that that's a fair characterization?
No, I think it is. I think actually this weekend is the inconsistency bowl, frankly, between the Tigers and the Gators. But Anthony is the off-the-bus All-American. He has all the tools. He looks the part. He really can sling it, But I think that his inexperience has been on display. Yes, we saw him last year, certainly at Tiger Stadium in the second half of that football game, but really never a start. He had one start under his belt. It was against the eventual national champ. So I think there's a couple of things here. One, I think he had to learn how to be a starter. And then here over the last couple of weeks, he's now, I think, getting the hang of preparing for a start. Two different things. And he's had to try and master that against pretty good competition. Whittingham in the Utes week one, Stoop, defensive mind with Kentucky, obviously the Tennessee situation. That didn't help. I mean, he didn't ease into this thing. He's got to be better at valuing the football. I think that he'll get better at, the progressions. And however long Florida has him, we're drafting more on potential than ever before in the NFL. So is he here just for this season? What will he look like at the end? I think Gator fans would love for him to learn this job this season and then really flourish next. But, I think a lot of us figure that he might not be here. He might be an NFL guy just because of, again, the tools that he possesses.
It's certainly fair to say that the turnovers have come in the last handful of weeks, sort of in bunches. The 7 interceptions have been a contributing factor. What has been, Sean? It's fair to say this offensive line, that would be the strength of the offense. When the running game has gone well, how has it looked? Why has it worked?
It's that offensive line that starts with that. I think that there's a bit of a road grader mentality there. Torrance kind of leads the way. He's arguably the best guard in the country. Transfers from Louisiana with Napier. Unfortunately, he's questionable for Saturday's game. We'll see how that plays out. But everybody else in that line had played together a little bit, and so there's a collective mindset with them. And they can do just about anything you ask them to do. They can zone block. They can counter pretty well too. When they have a mobile quarterback like Richardson, it keeps some of those linebackers and the guys on the edge honest. It creates maybe some mismatches in that sense. And then this running back by committee thing, Matt, has been remarkable. And now really carrying the load are the two young guys, Montrell Johnson, who came over from Louisiana, De La Salle guy, and then, of course, the younger brother of Travis Etienne, Trevor, the freshman out of Jennings, has been dynamite. And I saw it in camp, and I thought to myself, obviously he's not as good as his older brother, but he might be better as a freshman than his older brother was. And that was kind of scary. Could he pick up the blocking concepts? He has. And they're both patient runners enough. They both have different styles in that Montrell would just assume try and run it through your sternum. Etienne wants to make you miss. And then Naquan Wright, the veteran of that group, when he's on the field, he might be the smartest guy on the field both sides of the ball. So that's worked. All that has to work in concert together. And that's why, their numbers are really, really strong in that run game.
Sean Kelley is our guest. He's on Twitter at Sean Kelley Live. I want to flip it over and talk a little bit about that Florida defense. I look at the run statistics, and they're not good, but I know they have good players in that front seven. So where is that disconnect coming from? What the statistics look like and what we know are some good players in that defensive front seven?
Well, I think you're being somewhat kind. Those numbers are not good; they're bad. The defensive numbers are horrendous. If you look at where they rank in FBS, they've gotten gashed. There's no doubt about that. And you're right. The dilemma here is there's some good guys. Right in the middle, there's Ventrell Miller. I think he's going to be an NFL guy. But they're young and inexperienced up front. They've tried different things to the nose guard, including Big Mr. Watson, who is down to 405 pounds. That's scary. And he serves a certain purpose. And there's just not a whole lot of depth there. The frontline guys are probably okay, but to ask them to play every snap is unrealistic. You see the drop-off, especially if Ventrell's not in there or a Brenton Cox, per se. They're better now on the corners that Hill has returned finally from injury. And on the back end, they're experienced, but I wouldn't call those elite safeties. No offense to Rashad Torrance or Trey Dean, but, Billy Napier would want me to throw eye discipline out there. Since most of America don't really know what eye discipline is in football, I'll spare you that, and I would say that there's been some problems against teams that like to counter. Gap discipline, I think you and I can get our arms around that one.
Oh, yeah.
And also, because you're not as good on the back end, are you playing a little soft and have to give some space, and that space allows teams to get to a second level, and then you're a missed tackle or a great offensive move away from a chunk play. So if you throw all that in the pot together, that's kind of the takeaway on the Florida rush defense.
If LSU does have success offensively, and Sean, that's been hardly a given this year, but if they do have success offensively on Saturday, how do you think it looks?
They convert on third down at any time they want. Florida's giving up a third down conversion percentage of 60.6%. That's 125th in the country. So teams have racked up play numbers. I mean, just sheer number of plays. Last weekend, how many times Florida should have gotten off the field? Missouri's like in a 3rd and 19, and lo and behold, they convert. Chunk plays, 50-plus plays this season of 20 more yards in the air. So that's where it starts to be a problem. And that's why I'm a little concerned on the Florida side about a guy like Jaden Daniels, because he likes to be outside the tackles. He puts pressure on your edge, and you kind of have to pick your poison a little bit. And if Florida picks wrong, LSU has to make them pay for that decision. If they can't, and the run game's been suspect for LSU and all that, then Florida's defense may not look as bad. But if LSU can make them pay for one decision or the other, that's where that game hinges on that particular phase of the game.
I wanted to ask Sean just a couple of more, and Sean Kelley's our guest radio voice of the Gators. I wanted to ask about special teams because place kicking at Florida has kind of been a little bit sketchy here the last few weeks. What's going on there?
Only in that the misses are outside of 40, and it's 2 misses. Mahalik is interesting in that former walk-on, when the ball hits when his foot hits the ball, it's loud. It's like going to batting practice and hearing a guy like McGuire or Bonds hit the ball. It just sounds different. So he's got the leg, and they've now divided up the kicking duties in that Trey Smack, who was a highly touted kicker coming out. He's handling the kickoffs because he can put it in the first row of the bleachers. And McCulloch is the more accurate guy with leg. I've seen him hit from 56, 57 yards. So it's there. The two misses I don't think have hurt them. They come in wins, rather. And it's not like he's missing chip shots either. So I'm not as concerned as maybe somebody else would be at this point. And they've got a very good punter in Crawshaw, who I think, probably needs to go out and just, go to the driving range or something. He's punted one time in the last 2 weeks.
If Sean, if Florida wins the game, and they're a home favorite, but if Florida wins, what does the blueprint look like? How does the game play out?
It plays out by getting off to a good start. It plays out that the rushing numbers look as they do, as Florida's done this year. 6.4 yards per carry. That means that they're clipping at about 7.5 yards per play. If LSU shows man and Richardson gets going with Pearsall shorter, that crew, all those things are clicking. And then find a way to get off the field defensively. Keep the play count even as best you can. Be better on third down. Here's the other thing too, and I have this luxury of having kind of been in the LSU world and then now in the Florida world. The reputation of the Gators, and I know they don't want to hear this around here, is that people have come to think that Florida is kind of soft physically before Napier's arrival. I think they're more physical now under Napier, and that served them well through the first 6. If LSU comes in here, as they should and probably will, and just makes a big fist and tries to punch them in the mouth, if Florida doesn't swing back in just a physical way, it's a bad day for Florida. So that's the blueprint one way, and of course, the other two.
He's on Twitter at Sean Kelley Live. You'll give him a follow. Sean, enjoy the call on Saturday, man. It's always great to hear from you. We'll be in touch, all right?
Thank you. I will hope that there's no fog, no aerial shoes, or anything else like that on Saturday night.
There will be a lot of Tom Petty, and let's hope that the LSU band maybe doesn't play over Tom Petty, which might cause a brawl in the stands.
Yeah, I think that would be a safety concern for many.
Enjoy the game, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Great to have you back in the conversation with me. I hope you get to do it again.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.